Well, first of all, it was Annie Lennox and Walking on Broken Glass, and they're the Manics, of course, from the 1990s. And if you tolerate this, two artists who've actually recorded at the brilliant Rockfield studios near Monmouth. So joining me now to discuss a new book, a freshened up version of a fantastic book called Rock Legends at Rockfield, is the broadcaster, author and Sony Radio Award winner, Jeff Collins. First of all, good morning to you, Jeff.
Good morning.
How are you this morning? Everything okay? You in Collins land?
Yeah, everything absolutely fine. How about yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. A little bit disappointed, of course, with the result last night, but never mind.
No, I know. I've not seen us play that badly for nearly a decade now. It must have been the heat. I don't know what got into them.
Yeah. First half wasn't so bad, but of course it fell apart a little bit, didn't it, in that second half? But never mind. They put in a good shift overall, and well done for getting there. Well, first of all, before we talk about the book, Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself. Of course, I mentioned you're a broadcaster, an author, Sony Radio Award winner, the list goes on. And, of course, you've been in broadcasting for about 30 years.
Gosh, yeah. I started out in the Midlands in local radio, on two of the local radio stations. They're reading the news. I ended up in London on national radio for Classic FM, also reading the news, and ended up working for Sky News, ITN. And then I came back to Wales to present sport on TV on BBC Wales, which was great fun, doing football and rugby, a bit of snooker and bowls as well. I've spent the last 20 years working for Soccer Saturday on Sky Sports News, covering football games, and working for some Nation Radio and Made in Cardiff TV. And most recently, I still do kind of a rock show on a station called Hard Rock Hell Radio, which is run by the guys who organise all the hard rock festivals. So it's been great fun. You mentioned the Sony Award. I mean, that was a high point. When I was on Nation Radio, we won a radio Oscar for our rugby show, which I used to present with Sean Holly, the former Ospreys.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know Sean, yeah.
Yeah, we had great fun doing that, and we were beaten. We got bronze for best sports show, and we were beaten by BBC Five Live's overall Olympic coverage, which I thought was a bit harsh given their massive budget compared to ours.
That's the way it goes sometimes. But well done for that, anyway, to you and Sean, of course, because we have crossed paths a few times over the years, Jeff, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the odd concert here or there, it's been great fun.
Yeah. Now, this book, then, it's the second edition. When did the first edition come out?
Even though it feels like it came out about 12 months ago, it's actually 15 years now, 2007, which I find hard to believe. Because I started doing an article for Classic Rock magazine, and so many of the bands I was approaching who'd recorded at Rockfield were so enthusiastic about the place. I thought I could turn it into a book. And the University of Wales Press did that, put it out for me. And then they got in touch last year to say that this year is their centenary. It's 100 years, 1922, when the University of Wales Press started. And they're starting a new trade arm called Calon. And they decided that it would be good time to update the book, do some new chapters. So we've done 4 new chapters, a whole load of new pictures, covering some of the newer bands who've recorded their since the last. Focusing on Wye Valley as well, the sister studio for Rockfield, which became a studio of its own right, and has had the likes, Stereophonics, Black Sabbath, Oasis record there as well. So we did a bit of an updated version. I think we've done a really good job with it.
Yeah, I mean, the history is fantastic. The story is fantastic. It actually dates back to 1963, because it was Kingsley and Charles Ward who began the studio, wasn't it, back then?
Yeah, that's right. They had a band, rather imaginatively called the Charles Kingsley Combo. And but they were recording, and of course back then, I mean, even in the 90s, but especially back in the 60s, recording studios were pretty much just in London. And they went to Abbey Road, and they met George Martin, did a little bit down there. We kept travelling back and forth, and we thought, well, why are we doing this? Why we should be able to record in Wales. So they started their own studio in one of their bedrooms, put a little 4-track recorder. They started getting local bands in and charging them a small sum to record, and I had to send off to record companies, so they didn't have to go to London. And then it grew from there. Because it's a working farm, as various bits of the farm became redundant, like a pigsty or horse stables, they got converted into these 2 grand studios. And then things took off from there. Dave Edmunds, of course, recorded a big #1 hit single there, I Hear You Knocking, in 1970. And then, of course, by the time Queen started recording tracks, including Bohemian Rhapsody, it was stink time.
Now, you mentioned Queen, you've mentioned Dave Edmunds. I mean, the list is very, very impressive, Jeff, of the artists who've actually recorded at Rockfield. And they include, along with Queen, you mentioned Black Sabbath, Oasis, Rush, Robert Plant. Yes, we've already mentioned the Manics, Shopfront Heroes, Bullet for My Valentine,
Simple
Minds and Coldplay.
Yeah, but it's incredible because Yellow was directly influenced by rock. They're from London, but just outside London, where there's a lot of light pollution. So you look at the night sky, it tends to be quite orange. They were in rock after recording, look at the sky, saw the stars listening. Basically, I just said, look at the stars, see how they shine. Begin looking at Yellow, directly inspiring it. It has, I think, when recording studios have success, they hit windows. The more success you have, the more other people want to go there. And Rush, for example, were big proper rock fans, band of Genesis, yes. So they wanted to emulate their heroes. And the first time they recorded outside Canada after that Jordan Carver album was at Rockfield. Again, when I was a child, reading his album covers, seeing that bands like Queen and Rush and Judas Priest, Motorhead had all come to Rockfield just outside Cardiff, where I live. I couldn't believe it. They could have gone anywhere in the world. Why did they choose rainy Wales? So it's inspired a lot of bands. As I said, Robert Plant, when he first left Zeppelin, his first 4 solo albums, they were done at Rockfield. I was very lucky to track him down and get him to come to Rockfield with his solo band to spend the day there to talk about his time at Rockfield. The only guy, when it made me laugh, the only one who couldn't be there from his band was Phil Collins, who was in New York writing Tarzan the musical. But he sent me an email to read to Robert Plant, the band, saying, I had so much fun working with you. And when I read this out to them, Robert Plant just looked at me and said, well, yeah, he said, of course Phil Collins had a great time with us. He's seen Genesis, didn't he? That made me chuckle.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the privilege of interviewing Robert as well. He's a lovely guy, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, he is fantastic, and very knowledgeable about music, knows what he likes. And we, as I say, we spent all day there with him, and it's just riveting. And you can listen to him talk all day because he's a fascinating chap.
Yeah, you were breaking up a little bit earlier. You've come good now. Mobile phones, Jeff. Yeah, but we're okay at the moment. We're okay. But it sounded as though you were actually in Rockfield for a time then, inside the studios. But anyway, some more artists. I mean, what I've done is I've written down artists that have recorded there by their decade. Like in the 70s, Joan Armatrading, Bebop Deluxe. There's a name from the past. Arthur Brown, Dr. Feelgood, Roy Harper, who of course influenced Zeppelin as well, particularly the third album, of course. And it's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I played Shakin' Stevens earlier, amongst many others.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. With those bands, particularly in the 70s, when they get success, all the bands they've influenced, they then inspire the next generation. So bands like Oasis and Stone Roses, Kasabian, they were all saying it was watching those bands from the 70s and 80s record their bands like Queen and Rush that made them want to go there. So that success, inspires more success.
Yeah, and of course you think of people like Edwin, Starr, a Tamla Motown artist, but he recorded there as well, Jeff, didn't he?
Yeah, again, there's a lot of different styles. It isn't. I mean, obviously, the book focuses on the rock genre, but again, I think when people realise, because primarily I think because it was the first residential studio where. Before Rockfield, bands used to go to a studio, and let's say, they're just getting into the groove, they've just hit a good riff or good beat, and then the time ends. They've got to leave the studio, go back to their hotel, come back the next day, and they've forgotten where they were maybe. But at least with Rockfield, you carry on going all through the night. They're just staying there. There's no time limits. And I know one of the producers, Bob Mallett, who has produced the likes of Alice Cooper and Rob Halford, Judas Priest, and Blackstone Cherry, he was saying he loved that, the fact that he could just carry on going and didn't have to stop and lose where he was. And I think people love that fact, that creative freedom they get from just staying at Rockfield. So that's a big bonus for people as well.
Now, I know it's been well documented that Queen recorded their, of course, Bohemian Rhapsody. And when I say that to people, they say, yeah, go on. That was London, it had to be. But of course, it was Rockfield in Monmouth.
Yeah, they did little bits and bobs elsewhere, but the basis of it was done at Rockfield. Let them have it, as they're finishing the song. Freddie Mercury was sitting in one of the rooms at Rockfield looking out the courtyard. He sees the weather vane slowly moving in the wind, and then the last line of the song came to him, "Any way the wind blows," directly inspired by Rockfield. Allegedly, the rest of the Queen were out playing Frisbee when that happened. But yeah, I know Freddie Mercury really loved the kind of isolation and the fact that they were away from all the distractions of a big city, and it enabled him to focus on the song. And I remember Roy Thomas Baker, I interviewed him about that track, and he was saying, Freddie had mapped it out on a piano at Rockfield for him, doing the beginning bit, and then he got to the end bit and said, this is where we're going to get a bit heavy towards the end. And then he paused and just said to Roy, just imagine, he said, the middle bit, 3 or 4 minutes in the middle, that's the operatic section. And Roy and sort of Brian Majors both looked at him and thought, operatic section? What are you talking about? But it was all sketched out there.
Incredible. Other artists after that, of course, in the 90s, you had the Pogues, Julian Lennon. I wonder why Julian went there, because you would have thought with his dad's connection with Abbey Road, he would have gone there, Jeff.
Yeah, and this is the thing. You said about a lot of bands, why would they do Welsh? Because it's not, you go to Florida, you go to the Bahamas, or all these great studios around the world. And I think it's just people, as I said, attracted to emulate their heroes. I know when the Pogues were there, they were produced by Joe Strummer of The Clash. And I remember the producer there saying that he was having horrendous trouble getting them all in the studio at the same time, or getting them all in the studio at all. And there was one day where they did finally, they were all by accident there at the same time. And he just shouted at the producer, quick, start recording, quick, they're all here. Don't you know how important this is? They quickly started recording and tried to get most of it down on tape, But it is, that whole studio, a lot of bands I spoke to said, when we were there, we could feel the heritage, we could feel, the vibes of Queen, the vibes of Rush. It was all that historical, emanate from a wall of the studio. I think people love that.
Fairy Tale of New York, the Pogues. Do we know whether that song was recorded there, Jeff?
No, it wasn't for them. It was one of the later albums where they had Joe Strummer.
Right, okay, yeah. Brilliant stuff. We could go on, and we could go on, we could go on. Now, how can people get their hands on the book, Jeff?
At the moment, it's available to buy on Amazon or via online on a bookshop with the University of Wales Press website. Or if you wander into any of your local bookstores, it's a bit of there as well. Okay,
you did break up a little bit, but you said Amazon and a couple of other book sellers as well.
Yeah, so Amazon, it's available on most book-selling websites, the University of Wales Press website, and of course, if you go into any bookstore.
Brilliant. Any plans for a third edition?
Not at the moment, but we're considering follow-up books, what kind of book might come next. So yeah, I'm sort of looking at that at the moment.
Okay. Any website details? Are you on social media, Facebook, that sort of thing?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram, TikTok and Twitter. If people just search for Jeff Collins, they should be able to find me.
Excellent. There we are. Broadcaster, author, and Sony Radio Award winner Jeff Collins. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on GTFM today. And good luck with the book, Rock Legends at Rockfield. It's much appreciated, Jeff.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me. I enjoyed it.
So, just in case you thought we put the show together without planning, here's Dave Edmunds.